Hi everyone, I'm Danielle Dietrich here with another YouTube video about the different diversity certifications that are out there. Today we're going to do a deeper dive into one part of the new Disadvantaged Business Enterprise or DBE regulations about gifting of ownership. This comes up pretty often. I see a family member that wants to gift ownership or part ownership in a business to a woman or minority individual and hopes to qualify for DBE certification. With the new regulations that went live in May, there's some more clarification that we've been given about in what circumstances is this allowable. And so it's good because before, it was a little bit wishy-washy, a little bit of gray area. So it's good to get some more certification details on how this can happen. So a gift can be a valid way to acquire ownership in a DBE or an ACDBE. I don't mean to leave them out, but DBEs, there's a lot more DBEs than ACDBEs. ACDBE is Airport Concession Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. So when I say DBE, I do mean both of them. So there are some new requirements under the new regulations that we are going to talk about. And just to be clear, a gift is a transfer of money or property from one person to another without any expectation of repayment or compensation. So as I said, this situation comes up often where one family member wants to pass on ownership to the next generation, such as a father passing the business on to his daughter. I've had a lot of clients in that circumstance. And so we now know under what circumstances that can happen and under what circumstances is that going to disqualify you from DBE certification. So the biggest one, and I think one of the most difficult things for people to understand or just even swallow the concept, is that the person who made the gift, so in our example, father passing a business on to his daughter, that person who made the gift must immediately cease having any involvement or interest in the firm or any other business that contracts with a firm. The only exception is a landlord or a provider of standard support services. And I did the air quotes there because standard support services is not defined anywhere in the regulations. Are support services limited to back office work? Like, can they help with payroll, accounting, do the books? Or is it extended to other tasks or support services, something like having an ownership in Verizon who provides your internet service? So it's a little gray area there. But one thing that is clear is that the person making the gift must be out of the business after making a gift in order for it to qualify for DBE certification. So sometimes we see that a dad is staying in the business. It was 100% his. He gifts 51% to his daughter so that she is the person with the controlling ownership, and he keeps 49. Under the regulations, that is not okay. He cannot have any involvement or interest in the firm. So it needs to be 100% or nothing. Or perhaps the dad was a 51% owner with his business partner, another white male, who was a 49% owner. In that case, if the dad gifts his entire ownership 51% to the daughter, that could potentially be okay. But it is if the gifting individual retains any interest, that is not going to fly. So what counts as standard support services? We don't have an answer. I anticipate that we will have to wait until some appeals go through the process and get to the US DOT, who will issue appeal decisions explaining what does and what doesn't qualify as support services. Now, that means we have a long period of uncertainty because it can take some time for appeals to work their way through the system. We also have some issues with the US DOT has not been publishing their appeal decisions. Their website is not updated. So for folks like me who follow this closely, I end up doing a Freedom of Information Act request every 6 months or so to try to get the latest appeal so I can educate myself and be ready for my clients when they have questions on these matters. So next is that the person who made the gift cannot, quote, derive undue benefit, end quote. This term is also not defined in the new regulations. This can be interpreted to mean that the person making the gift cannot derive any benefit from the gift, such as a share of profits, tax deduction, or reciprocal business deal. The exception would be the payment of rent because the person making the gift is allowed to remain as landlord. So say there's a business operating and there's a holding company that own the property and dad keeps ownership in that, that is okay for the rent to still be paid to the dad as landlord. That is not considered an undue benefit or an interest in the potential DBE business. So otherwise, really my recommendation in the circumstance where there's gifting is that the person making the gift should completely disengage from the company and let the person receiving the gift run it independently. Yes, that is what I always recommend. However, reality, sometimes that's a little difficult. So that is really something when you are looking to pass on ownership to a new generation for hopes of getting DBE certification or in hopes that they can get DBA certification, that gifting individual really needs to be done and ready to check out and remove themselves from the business. And for business owners, that can be really difficult for them to do. So that is something to be aware of if you're in this circumstance or might be in this circumstance, is really the practical realities of what it means for someone to totally disengage from the business that they gave so much of their life to. So part counselor there giving that sort of recommendation. And third, there needs to be a writing documenting the gift, such as a receipt, a canceled check, transfer confirmation, etc. The writing needs to identify who made the transfer, who received the transfer, the amount of value, and the date. And the good news is this writing can be made after the transfer has already taken place, but you will need that for the DBE certification process. So that's a lot. When you're talking about gifting, it really is a good idea to talk to somebody who knows about these things, both from the tax and estate planning standpoint, and someone who knows these things from the certification standpoint, if certification may be a goal of the company. And oftentimes I work with those folks doing the business succession planning hand in hand to give them advice as to how this will actually have to operate in reality if that certification is a future goal of the company. So if you find yourself in that circumstance, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to work with you. I'd be happy to work with your attorney, or if you're an attorney watching this, I'd be happy to advise you on a limited basis. When it comes to these certifications, I do that a lot because it is a specialized area. So thank you for watching, and we'll talk again soon.